I knew, I was a freshman, I knew that there would be other opportunities, and I did a student show that semester, and I got into my first main stage the next semester, Blood Wedding. There's a horse. I had to say that. Anyway, so I was disappointed about callbacks or not being called back, and some of my freshman friends had been called back, and they were, disappointed for me, but, I knew what's meant to be is meant to be, and that as an actor, I have to get used to taking rejection. So I went home, I'm sure I called my parents and told them, and, the usual support and sympathy and whatever. The next morning, callbacks were scheduled the next day, and the next morning I woke up and I checked my email, and there's an email from the stage manager saying that the director had really liked my audition, and he forgot to include me, but he would like me to come in for callbacks. And I was thrilled. I emailed her back really enthusiastically, and I called my parents, and I rushed over, and I learned a dance combination, and I sang again, and it was really a good experience. I wasn't cast, but that's okay. And I thought that was really interesting. That'll never happen again, I'm sure. I'm sure that the next that will call me back like normal people, and they did. But I skipped to the second part of the story. It's spring of sophomore year, and I'm auditioning for the famed Rodgers and Hart musical, Babes in Arms. And I had just gotten my first professional voice teacher, and we had started working, and we had worked my 60-bar cut. I was singing From This Moment On by Cole Porter, and I did it, and I had a monologue, and they were both really good, and I was really happy with the progress I had made, having auditioned for several main stages now. And I went, and I did my thing, I did the best I could, and I thought it went really well, and I knew, Babes in Arms was a little more friendlier because it's a cast of young people, and I'm young. I'm in college, we're all young. Anyway, callback list came out that night, and I was not on it, and I was sad. And so I went through the usual routines, called my parents, wallowed in my sadness for a night, and then got over it the next day. The next day were callbacks. Nothing happened. People went to callbacks. The next day, the cast list came out, and lo and behold, my name was on it. And I don't know whose fault this is, maybe mine, but I wasn't really aware, or I hadn't read the fine print that said that if you weren't called back for this, that you were still being considered for a role. So, it was to my benefit because I did the show, and it was wonderful, and it was a good experience. But of course, never going to happen again. Ever. Which brings me to the third part of my story. It's senior year, about a month ago. And I auditioned for my last two main stages, which are Eugenia and Cabaret, the famous Kander and Ebb musical. And I was dying to be in Cabaret. It was going to be my last main stage at New Falls, and it was a musical, and I'm a very musical person, and I was like, even if I'm in the chorus, just let me be in the show. Come on, powers that be. And I sang a great song. I was working with a new voice teacher who helped me with everything tonight. And I sang, and I did a monologue, and I was smiling, and I did the best that I could, like always, as always. And I left, and callback list came out that night. And I was not on them. And I called my parents, who were at a family friend's house watching the Giants game. And pretty much ruined their entire evening. We talked, and obviously things are as things are. The next morning, it was the first day of classes, and my first day of classes here. And I wake up in the morning, check my email, and there's an email from the director, who was very apologetic and very sincere, and said, Matthew, and all the confusion yesterday, I forgot to put you and one other person on the callback list. Please come to callbacks. And I saw her later that day, and she apologized, and I'm very happy because she cast me in the show. So I'll just plug for a second, April 19th to 29th on this stage, Cabaret. Anyway, I'm not going to sing from Cabaret tonight because I left my fishnets in my dorm. Maybe next time. Maybe this time. Anyway, long story short and condensed into musical theater. Sometimes you're just not noticed, and that's what acting is all about, being noticed. If someone stood up in a crowd and raised his voice up way out loud and waved his arm and shook his leg, you'd notice him. If someone in the movie show yelled, "Fire in the second row! This whole place is a powder keg!" you'd notice him. And even without clocking like a hen, everyone gets noticed now and then. Unless, of course, that personage should be invisible, inconsequential. Me. Celebrate. Suppose you were a woman wed and sleeping in a double bed beside one man for 7 years. You notice him. A human being's made of more than air. With all that bulk, you're bound to see him there. Unless that human being next to you is unimpressive, undistinguished, you know who. Should have been my name, Mr. Cellophane, 'cause you can walk right by me, walk right through me, and never know I'm there. I tell ya, Cellophane. are